we talked with were reeling from job losses, adjusting to reduced incomes, or having trouble making mortgage payments. One adult in 53 of the families had lost his or her job during the recession. 50 families experienced lower incomes at some point during the recession, and at least a dozen had fallen behind on their mortgages. 7 families lost their homes due to foreclosure. By 2012, those who had been children when we conducted our first set of interviews were now young adults finishing high school, planning for college, entering the workforce, or starting families of their own. The parents we spoke to in 1998 were now in a position to tell us how their plans had worked out and how their resources had affected their own mobility and that of their children. With these 2 sets of interviews in hand, we traced the divergent advantages and challenges associated with race and economic status that confront families striving to move ahead in the United States. The interviews underlined how we must understand economic and racial inequality in tandem, how vast wealth disparities and racial injustice do real harm to individual families, and how powerful institutional forces, rather than individual choices, distinguish those families who get ahead from those stuck in place or falling behind. The story of Patricia and her family illustrates many of these themes and exemplifies the political and economic structure that at times helped launch her economic mobility and at other times destroyed her wealth. When we first talked to Patricia Aurora at her apartment in 1998, she had just moved herself off of social assistance. She and 13 million other people had been receiving cash assistance when the program known as Aid to Families with Dependent Children, AFDC, ended in 1996. Subsequent economic growth pulled her and others from welfare into paying jobs, and by 2000 had, along with new rules restricting eligibility for social assistance, halved the roles in the program that replaced AFDC, temporary assistance for needy families. When we spoke, Patricia had taken a job processing applications for a local utility company in Los Angeles County, and the probationary salary put her family's income just below the federal government's official poverty threshold. This threshold is the minimum level of income deemed adequate to feed, clothe, and house a family. It is calibrated by family size. The calculation is based on this standard, as is eligibility for some government programs. For Patricia's family of 3 in 1998, the poverty line was $13,650. Patricia wistfully told us that she was looking to meet a millionaire to rescue her. Still, if she had exceeded past the probationary period and secured a permanent position, the annual pay of $19,800 in 1998 dollars would nudge Patricia and her 4- and 5-year-old daughters just above the poverty line. A job paying less than $20,000 a year may not sound like much, and Patricia had no financial wealth, no savings, stocks, bonds, property, or car, and certainly no pension or other retirement plan. But for Patricia, the job represented a huge and proud step up. Sitting in her apartment in 1998, Patricia told us how she had taken classes to learn computer skills, gaining experience that paved the road away from the AFDC and helped her secure employment. Having a job and knowing that tomorrow would bring a stable, earned paycheck was crucial to Patricia's identity and dignity. Although eager to bring home more than the $700 monthly welfare payments she had been receiving, she also longed for the sense of self-esteem that came with work. Some critics view poor people as suffering from character defects, such as a lack of ambition or work ethic, welfare dependence, or an inability to defer gratification. Patricia didn't actually have these traits. In addition to work and money, housing and community were constant concerns in Patricia's life. In 1998, she was living in subsidized rental housing in West Los Angeles, 14 miles west of Watts, a neighborhood that offered too many traumatic reminders of where she had grown up. Patricia feared the menacing guys who hung out on the nearby street corner. She hoped to buy a home in a safe, welcoming community where her daughters could thrive.